And let's begin with the latest statement coming in from US President Donald Trump, who's reiterated his tariff threat to India. Donald Trump speaking about his latest threat that he'll increase the tariff on India because of India's ties with Russia, says very clearly now in an interview to a US media network. He said that the sticking point with India is that tariffs are too high, and so tariffs will be raised on India very soon over Russia oil. Again, no clarity that's coming from Trump on exactly what kind of a tariff increase we're talking about, but he's sticking to his guns, saying very clearly that India will pay the price for its ties with Russia, particularly over Russia oil. So Trump confirming that what he put out on his social media profile wasn't just a one-off comment, that he sticks to his stand that India will pay more for having ties with Russia. Let me bring in Pranay Upadhyay of India Today Global for more on this. So Pranay, no clarity from Trump on exactly how much of additional tariff we're talking about, but reiterating that there will be more for India to pay.
Akshita, President Donald Trump seems to be playing the pressure tactics here. He has stated this in his social media post. Thereafter, he reiterated, and with various social media posts as well as the various statements coming out from his cabinet colleagues and his team, and as well as he himself has made it clear that he is going to mount another level of pressure with another level of penalty on India's purchase of Russian oil. But clearly, after the statement put out by the government of India to give the factual position that it was the United States which compelled India to go for the Russian oil purchase because the normal oil sources were not available for India, and those oil sources were diverted to ensure the energy security for the Europe. Also, it was US was in agreement with India's oil purchase from Russia because it actually helped to stabilize the oil prices. So clearly, this shows that how India has helped to stabilize the oil prices here. Also, President Donald Trump has not specified that what level of penalty he is going to impose on India as far as India's oil purchases are concerned, or in fact, as far as the India's tariffs are concerned. We are only 48 hours away from the implementation of the 25% tariff penalty. So we are yet to see that, whether he increases that tariff penalty over and about 25%, whether it is 5%, 10% or 15%, we do not know the number, because that will bring the calculation that what exactly will be the amount of tariff India or the US has to pay for the Indian imports.
That's right. So at this point, no clarity, and Pranay is right in pointing out that in 48 hours this comes into effect. Remember, 1st August was the date that was pushed to 7th August. So 48 hours is when this new tariff rates will come into effect. How much is it? We don't know, because the first time you had Trump announcing that there's a tariff slapped on India, he spoke of penalties. This time around, just about yesterday, he said that there'll be more tariffs for India to pay. What is the percentage? We have no idea just yet. But let me bring in Rohit Sharma. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Rohit, good morning. Take us through the latest statement that's come in from the US president now, where he's again reiterated essentially that he's going after India.
As a matter of fact, Akshita, he just went on one of American news media channels and said he's going to raise tariffs of India substantially in the next 24 hours. Now, he's put a deadline to when he was going to announce it. We saw that about 24 hours ago. He said that he posted a message on Truth Social and said that he was going to raise tariffs of India, which is at 25%, and he said he was going to use it or increase that tariffs substantially. Now, 5 minutes ago, he went on an American news channel and said he is going to raise that in the next 24 hours. And he kept saying that India is not a fair trading partner. India has not traded fairly with the United States, and that he sees that if India continues to buy the Russian oil, he has no choice but to increase these tariffs substantially. So more breaking news coming your way, Akshita. President Donald Trump saying that in the next 24 hours, he would announce what number he thinks in his mind would be the tariffs of India.
So next 24 hours, we'll have to be on standby to get more clarity on exactly what kind of rates Trump is actually talking about. But also, in these comments that have come in, the big question mark that arises here, Rohit, is what happens to the talks that were scheduled to take place between India and US. There was a lot of chatter that there'd be a US delegation headed to India on 25th and 26th of August. Any word from the White House on whether that conversation, that dialogue is still on?
Well, look, we've been told that the conversations have been ongoing. They've been, for all these months, and that's what has been the case. But the fact that there has been frustration has caused President Donald Trump to come out and say things he has said on social media and issue statements to, off the cuff statements to American media also. So yes, the fact is, Akshita, there could be something that could be announced, a phase one of a deal, some kind of, a deal that could be announced. These conversations are ongoing. But the fact that President Trump has made up his mind and he's tying these tariffs to India purchasing Russian oil tells you how he's looking at the entire scenario, where he's not only looking at getting a deal, but also trying to get India to stop buying from the Russians, which again, it is a hard sell for India. But yes, you're right. I mean, there are conversations. There always will be conversations ongoing, but we'll have to wait and watch. How can Donald Trump, back off of his initial comments?
Okay, Rohit, Pranay, I request both of you to stay with me because we're getting another news break coming in. This is Kremlin's reaction to all of the Trump tariff pressure on India and on, for that matter, any country that's essentially doing business with Russia. Kremlin has put out a statement saying that trying to force countries to stop trading with Russia is illegal. Now, besides that, they've also said that we've seen many statements that are threats from America. Countries have the right to choose their own trade partners. For obvious reasons, it's very, very clear really where Russia stands on this entire showdown and war of words. I'll bring in Pranay again to get more details on what really Kremlin's first reaction is on this. Pranay, there's a lot of talk that with Trump acting the way he is and kind of attempting to isolate India, the Russia-India friendship, the Russia-India story will thrive.
Absolutely, Akshita, but this is not for the first time the Kremlin has reacted to the pressure and pulls and pressure being mounted by the West on India, especially in terms of the Russian oil purchase, in terms of the strategic partnership India and Russia shares. So clearly, this is a tug of war. You can say that India is caught in between because on one side there is the United States and its President Donald Trump mounting pressure on India to shun the oil purchases, the military ties with Russia. On the other side, Russia is also expecting India not to leave, in lieu of any other benefit or in lieu of compensating it with the other relationship. So clearly, this has come at a time when the Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is scheduled to visit Moscow, and also in coming days, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is also scheduled to visit Moscow, and these meetings are lined up because President Vladimir Putin is also scheduled to visit India in coming months. So a lot of action and a lot of activities are planned as far as the India-Russia relation is concerned, and also Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to visit China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization visit, where President Vladimir Putin is also likely to be there in Tianjin of China. So clearly, on one side there is a lot of activity on the BRICS partners, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. On the other side, the US is furious because the US president has spelled it out, as Rohit was mentioning, that he has given out, he has put a deadline, say about like 24 hours when he's going to announce the quantum of penalty what he will be imposing on India.
Okay, just also a quick Aaron question there to Rohit Sharma, who's joining us from Washington. Rohit, has there been any reaction? I'm curious to know if the White House has reacted to the very strong statement that came in from India last night, when you had the government very clearly calling out America for their own ties, for their own trade with Russia.
We've not seen anything on the record. As a matter of fact, I think, as I said, I think if everything is governed and distributed by the White House, so we would expect somebody like the State Department to come in and comment about it, but they did not. So we'll have to wait and watch what President Trump decides here, Akshita. But I think it's all wait and watch. Now, President Trump's put a new deadline to it, saying he's going to do it in the next 24 hours. So we'll have to wait and watch what he decides. It could be by the end of day today. It could be tomorrow morning. We'll have to wait and watch. But no such comments condemning or criticizing Kremlin in their statement. And I think there's also a broader realization here. I think people should realize that among a lot of Americans and think tankers and policymakers, that this is not how you negotiate with an ally and a partner. And I think that's why a lot of people are, tight-lipped about what's going on behind the scenes. They don't want to upset President Trump. But at the same time, I think there is the realization that this is an important, fixture as far as India-US relationship goes. And you cannot be negotiating the way President Trump is negotiating by threatening India and essentially blaming India for the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. So we'll have to wait and watch what becomes of it. There is one deadline that President Trump has, and there's another one by the end of this week. So we'll have to wait and watch of what President Trump finally announces and when he announces and what it would become for India.
You know, there are a lot of questions right now. Perhaps the biggest one is what really will this mean for the India-US story and the friendship that's been built for the last many decades. What does it mean now with this trade deal talks going completely south in the manner that it has in the last few days? Thanks very much, Rohit. Thanks, Pranay, for joining us with all of those details. Lots of reactions coming in. Donald Trump saying in the next 24 hours, he will make clear exactly what he means by substantial tariff hikes on India. Remember, India in its hit back, for the first time, India has completely called out America as well as the European Union, saying that what's happening right now is unreasonable, unjustified targeting. So India's stand is very clear that like any other major economy, India will take all necessary measures to safeguard its national interests and economic security. Donald Trump, of course, has been saying that no, it's not just 25% tariffs. It'll be a penalty over that for ties with Russia. And then yesterday has threatened India yet again over its purchase of Russian oil. But right after that, India put out a detailed statement. The MEA highlighted how EU buys oil from Russia, how US has trade with Russia, saying that despite all of that, constantly calling out India is unfair and completely unjustified.
We live in complicated and uncertain times. Our collective desire is to see a fair and representative global order, not one dominated by a few. That quest is often articulated as political or economic rebalance. But I want to say this to you: obtaining respect and ensuring dignity for societies can also be achieved through cultural prowess, especially through cultural prowess.
जिस तरीके से 25% टैरिफ की बात ट्रंप ने करके उन्हें रिश्तों में खटास पैदा की है, तो कपड़े व्यापारी को किसी भी तरीके की यहाँ सोच की दिक्कत नहीं है। हम भारत सरकार के साथ यही कहना चाहते हैं कि 35% खाली एक्सपोर्ट जो हम गारमेंट करते हैं उसका मार्केट खाली अमेरिका है, उसको हम कहीं पे भी किसी भी तरीके से दूसरे देशों के साथ में हम अपने समझौते FTA वगैरह और सरकारी नीतियों में बदलाव ला करके अपनी कॉस्टिंग कम करके और हम दूसरे मार्केटों में जा करके अपने कपड़े का भरपाई कर सकते हैं।
So let's get you the first reaction that's come in from the Ministry of External Affairs. Yes, there was a very strong statement last night, soon after Trump had put out another warning to India, speaking about more tariffs on India for buying oil from Russia. The MEA has responded very clearly, and the important messaging here from India, that India doesn't yield to political pressure when we speak of oil imports, and it's strictly based on availability and global situations. Here's that statement from Randeep Jaiswal.
हमारा जो ब्रॉड अप्रोच, मतलब जो हमारा अप्रोच और रवैया है, उससे आप भली भांति अवगत हैं कि जो बाज़ार में, अंतर्राष्ट्रीय बाज़ार में जो तेल मिलता है, किस भाव पे मिलता है, और उस समय या इस समय जो भी वैश्विक माहौल है, इसको लेके हम इस पर निर्णय करते हैं। जहाँ तक स्पेसिफिक आपका सवाल के बारे में बात है, मैं इससे कोई अवगत नहीं हूँ। आई एम नॉट अवेयर ऑफ इट। आई डोंट हैव डिटेल्स ऑफ द स्पेसिफिक्स।
All right, so that was a statement from a couple of days ago. We'll get you, in fact, the latest statement from the MEA, which came in today in just a bit. But let's talk about really the impact of what we're seeing of the Trump tariffs. Which are the sectors that have been hit the worst, or that rather will be hit when it comes into effect from 7th August? First of all, gems and jewelry, because of the fact that in the GJEPC, the development they've said is very concerning, which is the commission essentially that looks into gems and jewelry. This could hit thousands of jobs. It could also disrupt supply chains. The tariffs could also distort prices and delay shipments as far as this sector goes. For pharmaceuticals, that's another sector that will be hit because of the tariffs. India is in fact the largest supplier of generic drugs. $220 billion savings to US customers in 2022, and 30% of pharma companies' revenue is actually from America. That will be hit courtesy these tariffs. textiles and apparels as well. Another sector that will be dented. Again, Indian companies are major suppliers to US retailers, and there's tough competition in this industry, in this sector, from Vietnam, from Bangladesh as well. So for them, this industry is going to be hit. What happens when these kind of increased tariffs are brought in by Trump is that the goods are no longer in competition. The rates are far too high, so everyone is going to look at a Vietnam or a Bangladesh. Similarly, electronics as well. India, very recently, in fact, became the largest mobile supplier to America. It happened this year in 2025. Apple supplies to US could be under threat. Apple phones now that are being made here, sent across, that could be under threat. Electronics were exempted from tariffs in April, but right now, we don't really know which are the exemptions and which aren't, especially with Donald Trump at the helm. Doesn't look like we can take anything for granted. Oil refineries. Well, uncertainty for obvious reasons due to the use of Russian crude oil, and especially because of Trump saying that, India is going ahead and buying from Russia and then putting it out of the open market. Nearly 37% of crude oil imports are from Russia. In the absence of that, prices will shoot right up, and so refiners' margins could actually take a big hit. These are issues for India, but it's also very much an issue for America. A lot of business that America has is to do with companies in India, and they too will be hit by these moves being made by Donald Trump. So India, of course, has been buying oil from Russia at discounted rates, which is why India has made it very clear that, look, we have to look out for our own interests. But India also, while doing this, was hailed as a smart move to actually stabilize global markets. But now with Donald Trump back in the White House, the tone clearly has flipped. India is suddenly being threatened with tariff penalties for doing the same thing. So why the U-turn, and how much has India really gained from Russian oil? Here's a breakdown by Business Today.
When India began ramping up its purchase of Russian crude in 2022, it wasn't under sanctions, nor was it condemned. In fact, behind closed doors, several US officials urged India to stabilize global prices by absorbing discounted Russian oil.
We kind of got past the ability of saying, oh, just follow America, you have to do exactly as we do. And we take the smaller victories, like actually they bought Russian oil because we wanted somebody to buy Russian oil at a price cap. That was not a violation or anything. It was actually the design of the policy, because as a commodity, we didn't want oil prices going up. And they fulfilled that. During G20, they were able to take Russia to the side and say, take or leave this statement, which was critical about Ukraine. It just took the word Russia out, but it was very clear. And we were able to deliver Europe. They were able to deliver Russia. That boxed in China, and it showed, again, this multiplicative relationship when we get together.
As one of the most significant global consumers of oil, we know that the Indian economy has much at stake in the Russian oil trade, and has much at stake from the global supply disruptions that the price cap is designed to avoid. The price cap's goals are to limit Putin's revenue and maintain global oil supply, essentially by creating a mechanism for India and other global consumers of oil to access Russian oil at discounted prices. The price cap's first year was a successful one by those standards. Global oil markets remained well supplied, while Russian oil traded at a significant discount to global oil.
Fast forward to 2025, and suddenly the tone has changed. President Donald Trump, in power for less than 8 months, has flipped the narrative. India is now a villain, and Trump has demanded India stop buying Russian oil altogether. The demand has been accompanied with threats of higher tariff penalties. New Delhi isn't taking the criticism lying down. Top officials have reminded Washington that oil was bought legally, transparently, and in the best interest of Indian consumers.
If more and more people were to buy from the other OPEC sources, you know what would have happened? Prices would have gone up minimum to $130, $140 a barrel. So if we were buying from any source that we could, I think we should be applauded.
Estimates of the amount of money India saved by buying Russian oil in the past 3 years range between $25 to $50 billion. In 2022, India received a discount of over $30 a barrel from Russia. The discount went down to around $20 in 2023 and further to around $9 in 2024. This year, the average discount has been around $2 to $5 a barrel. And while India defends its Russia energy links, questions are being raised here at home, especially by the Congress, about why cheaper crude did not lead to noticeably cheaper prices at the pump. If India bought oil at a discount, why did not the common citizen benefit?
40% गिरावट आई है कच्चे तेल की कीमतों में, 40% गिरावट, लेकिन पेट्रोल डीजल के दाम कम नहीं हो रहे, एक्साइज ड्यूटी की लूट कम नहीं हो रही। मुनाफा किसको हो रहा है? साफ हम बताएंगे। मुनाफा सरकारी और निजी तेल कंपनियों को हो रहा है।
The government argues that global volatility, refining costs, and taxation structures complicate a simple pass-through of crude discounts of retail fuel prices. It also blames the UPA-era oil bonds, the burden of which is being borne now. According to estimates, 52,000 crore rupees were paid as principal and interest in the last fiscal alone. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
And let's get you the latest updates on Anil Ambani's questioning by the Enforcement Directorate. We're getting you an India Today scoop now on the latest updates. The Enforcement Directorate is likely to call Anil Ambani for questioning once again in the next 7 to 10 days. Here's what sources are telling India Today. In today's questioning, which started this morning, Anil Ambani, to most of the questions, told the Enforcement Directorate that he needs some days' time. He needs 7 to 10 days to get the papers and to get all details together. He's maintained all financial decisions were taken by the internal board and that he only signed off on these papers, essentially trying to wash his hands of the fraud allegations against him. Now, because he said that he needs a couple of days, 7 to 10 days, he says, to get all details, all the paperwork, all the documents, there's a likelihood that the ED will summon him once again after that. Shreya Chatterjee is joining us live from outside the ED office where Anil Ambani has appeared. Shreya, take it away. Get us the latest updates of what you're picking up from your sources on Anil Ambani's questioning. We understand he was rather, washing his hands off all of the allegations, saying, look, I only signed off on the papers.
Hear any audio?
Shreya? Don't think she's with me. My apologies. We're going to connect with her once again to get you those details. Shreya has been tracking all the latest updates on Anil Ambani's questioning. Remember, he was called in by the Enforcement Directorate in an allegation of a 12,000 crore loan fraud case and for the first time was summoned by the ED. Shreya is with me now with details of this. Shreya, get us all the details you picked up from your sources on Anil Ambani's questioning.
Akshita, Anil Ambani is being questioned since 11 in the morning. It's almost going to be close to 7 hours now. We're being told that he will be let off shortly. What we're also being told is that he will probably be questioned again in the next 7 to 10 days. The reason so is because there are documents and papers that he's been asked to submit to the claim that he is making. What we are being told by our sources in the Enforcement Directorate is that he's suggesting that all the financial decisions in the company were actually taken by the internal board and only signed by him. To just give an understanding for our viewers, the case pertains to an entire loan fraud to the tune of 17,000 crore. There are multiple allegations, about how money was rerouted to multiple other companies within the Reliance Group itself. And apart from that, there is also 39 banks which are under the dock for not flagging off the defaults that he was making while this entire thing was happening. There were also backdated credit approval memorandums that were allegedly used to secure these loans. We've also seen one arrest in the matter of one Partha Sarthi Biswal. He had allegedly given a credit securing approval to the tune of 68 crores, and he'd allegedly received kickbacks for that to the tune of 4 crores. So entirely, this is what the case is. Anil Ambani is being questioned pertaining to that, about how did he manage to get the loans, about how did backdated credit approval memorandums be used in these in getting these loans. But what we are being told now by our sources, he's saying that the entire decision was taken by the board internally. He only signed the documents. Now he'll have to furnish that evidence in the next 7 to 10 days. What we do understand that he will definitely be questioned for a second round by the Enforcement Directorate.
Okay, Shreya getting us all of those details. Thanks very much, Shreya. So round 2 of questioning of Anil Ambani likely. He is still, by the way, at the ED office. His grilling continues right now. But it is expected that even once the questioning for today is over, in about a week's time, there's a possibility that Anil Ambani will be summoned once again. And that's largely because, as Shreya just told you, to all questions being asked, he says, I need more time to gather all the documents, to gather all of the paperwork. So the ED, it looks like, is going to go ahead and give him that time. But what we're hearing is that this isn't the end for Anil Ambani. He is going to be summoned again by the Enforcement Directorate. But what really is this case all about? Why is the businessman Anil Ambani under direct agency heat? At the heart of it is a 17,000 crore loan fraud. The ED probing if massive kickbacks were paid to banks to buy their silence. Details in our report about what really this case is all about.
ED mounts heat on businessman Anil Ambani. From Mumbai to the Enforcement Directorate headquarters in Delhi, the businessman is under direct agency scrutiny. Questioned under supervision of top-ranking ED officers, Anil Ambani is at the centre of an alleged high-stakes financial scandal. At the heart of the probe, a rupees 17,000 crore loan fraud. Investigators believe massive kickbacks may have been paid to banks to overlook glaring irregularities, and the proceeds may have been laundered. 39 banks have been served notices. The charge? Silence, inaction, and possible complicity with the loan fraud. The ED's line of questioning, accessed by India Today, is razor sharp. Why did Reliance Anil Dhirubhai Ambani Group companies approach Yes Bank between 2017 and 2019? Were loans sanctioned before approvals? Who backdated documents and why? Did funds flow to shell firms? Why did borrower firms share directors and addresses? Why was due diligence ignored? The heat doesn't stop there, and neither does the disreputable facts coming to the surface. A complex web of suspicious transactions and alleged financial misconduct. Loans sanctioned to Reliance ADAG-linked entities which were allegedly routed back to Yes Bank promoter firms between 2017 and 2019. At the bottom of it all lies the core question: did Anil Ambani's empire buy silence to suppress red flags? This isn't just a probe into financial misconduct, it's a storm aimed at the very heart of corporate governance. And this time, there may be no safe exits.
Apart from Yes Bank, there's a total of 39 banks which are under the radar for not raising the defaults that were being carried out by the Reliance group of companies. That's exactly why we see this questioning that is now lasting for a long time. He appeared at around 11:30 before the Enforcement Directorate, and clearly it's going to be a long hour for him today. With video journalist Madan, this is Shreya Chatterjee for India Today.
Okay, let me bring in Munish Pandey also for more details on the story and what's really happening with regards to the ED's questioning of Anil Ambani. Munish, we're hearing that at this point, while Anil Ambani's questioning is still on, there are a lot more questions that the ED has for him, and so there's a possibility he could be summoned a second time around.
Well, Akshita, it seems like, just to give a sense of what exactly is happening, we are standing right outside the ED headquarters where Anil Ambani is being questioned as we speak. We have been given to understand is that in some time, Anil Ambani will come out of the Enforcement Directorate, at least today. But trouble seems to be mounting, Akshita, for Anil Ambani, because we have been given to understand is that next week again he will be called in for questioning. The estimate is in next 10 days, within next 10 days, Anil Ambani will be called. But why? According to Enforcement Directorate, to most of the questions when Anil Ambani was confronted with documentary evidence regarding the bank documents, bank fraud cases. He told ED officials that these are old matters pertaining to 2017, 2018, 2019. He cannot recall immediately. So he will take 7 to 10 days to gather those documents, and then only he can reply to the ED officials. Also, what we have been told by our sources within the Enforcement Directorate is that he has basically washed away his hand from most of the allegations, and he has blamed his own executives when he was asked about that why have you signed the loan papers, it is you have sanctioned all the loans approvals. Anil Ambani apparently and allegedly told the ED officials that it was the decision taken by the internal board of the business entities, and on those recommendations he has signed. But ED, at this point of time, we have been going to understand is that ED is not believing what Anil Ambani is saying. And that is why tomorrow, Amitabh Jhunjhunwala, right-hand man of Anil Ambani, he has been called. There are at least 6 executives of Anil Ambani who have been called in next 6 to 7 days, and after 7 to 10 days, Anil Ambani will have to appear once again before this ED office where I am standing.
Okay, so the scope of investigation only getting bigger right now. We will track all the latest updates. Munish and Shreya continue to get us the live updates that are coming in from the Enforcement Directorate. There, Anil Ambani still in the ED office from 11 a.m. So that's nearly 7 hours now. Thanks, Munish. Thanks, Shreya, for joining us with all of those details. Absolutely horrifying images that are coming in from Uttarkashi's Dharali village. Widespread destruction after a cloudburst led to a massive flash flood in the area. Let's begin by getting you all the images, videos coming in from the site. This is the moment that the flash flood hit, swallowing an entire village. We're not exaggerating because look at those videos on your screens. Several buildings can be seen completely washed away. People standing on the roads being swept away in the flood waters. We have no idea at this point about the casualty count. And watch carefully on the right of that particular video. You can see people, tourists and locals running and scrambling for safety as the water levels suddenly rise and the floods hit the region. Videos have captured this horror. At this point, the information we have is that 4 people have died, but that number could significantly go up. Just to give you a sense of the extent of destruction right now, look at the 2 pictures on your screens of what this village looked like before the flash flood versus after. Most of those buildings have been swallowed up. The path of the river extended to a great deal. Now, at this point, officials are closely monitoring the situation. The immediate challenge is to get as many boats on the ground to help the locals and tourists stranded. The Indian Army has also stepped in, mobilizing 150 personnel at the site and intensifying rescue operations. So far, about 20 individuals have been successfully evacuated. Search and rescue efforts are also underway. In the aftermath of the cloudburst, the water level in rivers has risen significantly. Houses completely submerged in slush along the river banks. These videos also show how people who managed to escape from that flash flood struggle to get to safer points because of the slush there. And after the Dharali village, Uttarkashi has seen yet another cloudburst, this time near Suki Top. Fortunately, in this incident, no casualties have been reported because you can see that there's no civilization, no development in these areas. And the central government is very closely monitoring the rescue operations that are underway currently in Uttarakhand. Home Minister Amit Shah has also met with members of parliament from Uttarakhand in parliament. Now we understand and government sources have told us that the Home Minister is personally monitoring the situation and ensuring that whatever help needs to be provided by the central government that immediately reaches Uttarkashi. At this point, the confirmation that's come in is that a team of NDRF, 80 army personnel are all headed to Uttarakhand. There are 4 army choppers that are also currently on standby. The biggest challenge is to actually get to that spot with the amount of silt and slush that's gathered in these areas. Let me bring in Ashutosh Mishra, who's currently, as we speak, headed to Uttarkashi, to that particular site. Ashutosh, you know, in these kind of operations, time is of the essence. And so the biggest challenge for officials, rescue teams, will be to get to that spot itself.
Well, actually reaching to the particular site, of course it is difficult, but we know they are army, the SDRF, NDRF, these are trained personnel and they are always ready for the rescue, search operations or any sort of relief during these kind of devastation. But the biggest hostile, Akshita, at this moment is the weather, because we have a standby of Chinook, we have standby of ALH, we have standby of Mi-17. All these choppers are also put on standby as we having the information in different from Chandigarh, Bareilly, Saharanpur, Sarsava, all these air bases. So, in fact, the Air Force, adding on Air Force in the rescue and relief operation will be more beneficial. But the biggest challenge is actually the hostile weather. Now we are what you're also saying in Harshil, that literally a river that was flowing is now turning into a lake. So if the water is continually, collecting in that particular area, eventually that will make another difficulty, that will add more difficulties to that. Subsequent to that, the structure, multiple such structures have gone under the debris. So clearly the biggest challenge in the midnight is first to go and identify these areas. We have different machineries that is being moved on to the rescue site, to the incident site. Despite all the sorts of the night, the dark or the lights, the agencies will carry out such operation. But the biggest challenge is style. If there is a orange alert issued, there will be consistent rainfalls, and in that case make everything very difficult. Of course, this is going to be a challenging night for all the operations, all the agencies who are involved for the rescue, search and relief operations. It's going to be a more task for all of them. But tomorrow onwards, there will be first sight of a live. In fact, not only that particular place, in fact, across Bhagirathi River, administration has been warning people do not venture out to the riverside areas, because eventually when the water comes down, clearly it is likely to, there will be a rise in a water level. But that's what we are hearing from the other side, that several people who are still missing, finding them out, also the people near the low-lying areas for their evacuation. So there are a lot of priorities that the agencies are now working on. We are seeing more and more rescue efforts, and boots on the grounds are being dispatched for the from the NDRF, from the SDRF, from the Army, from the Air Force. Akshita.
All right, Ashutosh, thanks for those details. Ashutosh will be getting us ground reports in some time from now. As he's pointed out, the weather is a big challenge. But let me bring in on this broadcast Mr. Piyush Rotela, former Executive Director of the Uttarakhand State Disaster Management Authority. Thank you very much, Mr. Rotela, for your time. It's a very unfortunate circumstances that we're having you on this broadcast, looking at the situation that's currently unfolding in Uttarkashi. I'd like to begin with Mr. Rotela, you explaining to our viewers the challenges in this kind of a rescue operation. You know these areas in and out. What perhaps makes this kind of a rescue operation so very challenging for the personnel on ground?
Basically, it's access is a problem, because Dharali is far off from district headquarters. You will take 3 to 4 hours to reach out there. And weather is another challenge that has already been explained, because if it's a bad weather, you cannot fly choppers and other kind of things. To add to it, you have because during the night you cannot work out there, because that would be a challenge. So you have a limited time to work out there. You have a challenge of access and weather, how to reach out there. That's a thing.
Looking at the footage right now, Mr. Rotela, and you're an expert, of course, in this matter, looking at the footage that's emerging right now and the manner in which, this entire village essentially has been hit by this flash flood, doesn't look like there were evacuations before this happened, before the cloudburst. What really are the chances of people being found alive under these layers of debris and silt? Time is of the essence, of course, in these kind of operations.
Basically, survival is a function of time. And in this kind of a situation where there is a slush and landslide and debris kind of thing, you don't have air spaces as is there in earthquake situation where there are a lot of air pockets and this kind of things. In this kind of a situation, survival is a major issue. As the time lapses, you will have, say, chances of survival would drastically minimize there.
Okay, so we're hoping against hope and praying for all of those who are in that particular site. But I think one more question, Mr. Rotela, will be why? Why do we see these kind of disasters constantly taking place? And also, is it because that we don't have an adequate system in place to ensure warnings are put out before this kind of a cloudburst? Evacuations could have happened. It would have perhaps meant that we're not looking at a casualty count today.
Basically, if we look at situation worldwide, we don't have warning systems or the
in the battalion. Unfortunately, sometime after that, the mudslide and cloudburst also struck the Indian Army camp and portion of our rescue columns. Despite the same, the Indian Army is resolute in its endeavor to carry out rescue operations and assist the local populace.
Okay, so that is a statement that we just cut into live there. Looks like it was in fact a confirmation from the Indian Army also on the operations that are underway. Close by, there's also an army camp. So at that point, we're yet to get details really of what the situation is. But let's get you a video that's come in from that army camp in Harsal. It's been devastated by the flash floods. There are videos that have emerged of it. That's the video on your screens there. This is shot from an army camp, or at least what was left of it, honestly, because you see the kind of silt and how the water has just taken along with it almost every possible sign of civilization in that particular area. Any sign of development buildings completely gone. You can just see remnants of it, a few roofs right on top. But this is the worry, really, that buildings have either been completely washed away or it's been completely buried under debris. How do you dig through that and reach to the people who are perhaps stranded in these buildings? This is the army camp in Harsal, which is just about 7 kilometers from the cloudburst hit Dharali. Let me bring in Ankit Sharma for the latest updates. Ankit, there's still information that's trickling in on the rescue operations that are underway, but has there been any official number that's been given by the government on casualties, or for that matter, those who've been evacuated?
Well, Akshita, the government hasn't responded with any latest update so far. And after 3 p.m. today afternoon, the officials had informed us that 4 deaths had been confirmed. And after that, the search operation is still on. The Indian Army, along with ITBP personnel and NDRF, SDRF, and local government personnel are on ground zero, and they have started the rescue operations. However, the adverse weather conditions are a big hindrance at the moment, and the operation is gradually underway. And because of the rainfall and intense rainfall events, the sorties are also not possible. Though the Harsal helipad is on standby, as well as the Chingali-Sound airstrip is also on standby, and Mi-17 along with Chinook helicopter has been deployed. More personnel have been dispatched to the incident site from Dehradun and other areas of Uttarakhand. Few more personnel are going to be dispatched from Delhi as well. So the whole operation is going to be a massive mission of the country in today's time, and this is going to be a large mission so far, like we saw during Silkara tunnel operation. This is a very massive event as of now, and it has completely devastated the Dharali area when a cloudburst struck the area.
Just to give our sense, Ankit, just to give our viewers a sense of really this particular village, this particular area, was there any sort of alert that was issued? Did it lead to evacuations? Is this a very bustling village? Is it a tourist hub?
Over the past year, this village has garnered a lot of devotees who have been thronging to Dharali and Mukwa, which is on the other side of the Bhagirathi river. And Mukwa is a revered winter abode of Ma Gangotri, and whenever the portals of Gangotri Dham is closed for the summer season, Ma Gangotri travels to Mukwa, and she settles there for another 6 months. So in the last 6 months and more than that, when Prime Minister Modi had visited Mukwa last year, a lot many devotees have been visiting this area, and Dharali is perched in on a hill which is surrounded by beautiful serene hillocks as well. And there's a Dhir Ganga river drain which caused the deluge today after the cloudburst struck at 1:50 p.m. And it has completely submerged the area with muck and rubble.
Okay, Ankit, we're going to continue tracking all the latest updates with you and all of your colleagues who are currently headed to that particular location. It's very challenging. As you can make out, it's non-stop rain there. There's a red alert. There have been 2 cloudbursts in a matter of hours close by to the location where you've seen the flash flood actually happening. And that's the concern, really, that the weather and the heavy rain isn't stopping. So for officials to reach the particular site and kick off the rescue work is extremely challenging. Time is of the essence. And yet, as it becomes dark, it's again very difficult for officials to continue with the work, which means a large part of the rescue work could just happen tomorrow. And then there's a question about whether it's too late then to actually hope that locals can survive a night under all of that debris in such a situation. We're going to continue tracking all the latest that comes in from Uttarkashi as I wrap up this edition of Super 6. Do stay with us here on India Today.